know it, but then I know it's growing strong. Oh, wasn't the spring, ba ba ba, and spring became the summer. Who'd have believed you'd come along? Starting work for GE Financial in 1999 was the start of really great times. And it was an incredible opportunity that just, as I said in my other video, just happened to come up right after I got done working on my assignment at Lockheed Martin. And not just that, but the person that I worked with, Mary Ann Maloney, who was my manager, and I had a great syncopation. We got each other, and we got along really, really well. And what was really neat about the job was that it was a change for the company. The position had originally just been an administration job, and mostly entering the applications that came into the system and sending them on to GE Financial Assurance in San Rafael, California, and then making sure that agents' materials got ordered and such. And the job, the company having been just purchased recently by GE Capital, the job was moving into what they were calling a sales support leader position. And what that meant was that you were going to have a greater role in trainings, in helping them market, and a number of other areas like that. And so it was a perfect natural fit for a degree in marketing communications, because I had a bunch of insurance agents who needed help in marketing. And so it really hit into my strong suit that not only did I have experience in that, but I understood long-term care, and we were doing long-term care insurance. If I wanted to say one thing about the industry, it was that I felt really good about what I was doing, and they should. And people who have long-term care insurance have had phenomenal experiences. But I want to start by opening this video with one big thought, and that is that I came out of college with the goal of being a successful person in business, in sales, or in whatever it was, but I was going to succeed. And I was going to do it by applying all the talents I always had, which was a high degree of ability to understand situations and see similarities. And it was the start of a career that lasted 13 years, and it was in a sales office in Bloomington. In a lot of ways, it sets me up for what happened 13 years later when I was laid off, which is a story I'll tell much later. But what I want to impart in this video was that the job itself, working for GE Financial and for Mary Ann, was fulfilling. I went to work every day energized. I loved my job. I felt appreciated. I saw a path for career. I had training and I had support. And most importantly, right after I started, they flew me out to California with my manager for a meeting of the Western Division, which we were a part of. And so we went out to the San Rafael office, and we got to see the factory, if you will, and we got to meet some of the people that were sending the emails back and forth to us. And it was a marvelous experience to go out for the first time to California and to see Marin County. It was a beautiful area. I'd never been out there before. I came back completely energized and completely excited about where we were going and what we were doing. And I also started to recognize that there were some really great practices out there. And Mary Ann and I had our own shtick, we had our own pace, but there were other folks who just had phenomenal experiences that I started to pick up great touches and tabs about how they conduct their business and how they train their salespeople and how they mentor them into a position before they even hire them. And it was the first time that I got to see sort of the inside bowels of how a sales organization develops, because that's what it was. The career sales force at GE Capital was actually the largest long-term care insurance sales force in the nation. It was a very successful one at that. And GE Financial was the largest carrier of long-term care insurance at the time. And so I was working as a sales support leader in the largest long-term care insurance provider in the nation, and doing so with a team that was really strong. the purpose of the office originally was to expand out. So when I got to the office, Mary Ann had been running the satellite regional office, and it was a mess. And one thing I love are projects. And I spent the next month putting the office together and helping to do the paperwork for contracting our real sales office, where we were going to be holding trainings, and my desk would be, and all that great stuff. And so we went from a small room, probably 12 by 20, with everything stacked against the wall in big shelvings, and we went to this big, 900 square foot suite on the 9th floor, and I looked right over I-94 in this big blue building right on the interstate and right into the airport, which eventually, by the way, they put a runway that would take off right over the building. When the office was expanded, the plan was to actually expand it into 2 new regions, and there was a northern Minnesota and a southern Minnesota, and we became part of the southern Minnesota. And the northern Minnesota had this really great guy by the name of Greg Cruz. Greg was a sweetheart. And so I supported Greg until Greg hired his sales support leader, Amy, and Amy and I were thick as thieves as well. And her desk would be just opposite mine, and we ran the office for about a year together, and then the sales leads that we were getting, which were done by direct mail, began to waver. And the reason they wavered, in part, was that direct mail in America had hyper expanded, and response rates plummeted. And in fact, that was one of the things that we discussed in the meeting out in California. And so you can't sell long-term care insurance to a sales force with leads that don't come in. And so the division manager made the decision to merge the 2 territories together. And at that point, based on numbers and work, they let Mary Ann go and put her back into the sales force, which was where she had a real strong, hand at. And so when that happened, they laid me off. And so after just about 2.5 years at GE Financial, I found myself once again looking for a job. This time, not only not fired, but my divisional manager and the company saw fit to, one, compensate me a few weeks' salary for every year I'd been with the company, and then more importantly, they were actually putting me through an entire course on how to get a new job. It's one of these outside placement agencies, and so as I was being laid off, it happened to be right at the beginning of May. I think it was May or June. I think it was June. Yeah, my last day was June of 2001. And the thing was, I had a brand new baby girl at home. And so I was being laid off with a bunch of checks, with a bunch of money, and a little girl at home that I could spend the summer with and enjoy. And I did. In fact, I went sailing quite a bit and walks and enjoyed my time. But I had to face that I was leaving the company and I needed to find a new job. And so as I looked on the message boards, I found a new job with GE being advertised for a financial services wholesaler. And what a financial services wholesaler was, I knew particularly well because we had done the small regional firm rollout of financial services wholesalers in our office. And a financial services wholesaler is someone who goes into a financial planner's office and helps to sell the product. And so I was hired to do, well, I'm sorry, that's a good story. I'm going to hold the story short this week because that's an entire next story. But it was interesting because I went from leaving Lockheed Martin into the sales support leader, and I was just about to be laid off in the sales support leader when I found my next job. And so next week, because I spend 11 years in that job, I'm going to talk about financial services wholesaling and some of those particular experiences because they were important, including the guy who mentored me to do it, and that's a Philly Dog. That's my buddy Philly Dog. So I want to thank everybody for your time this week, and I know this story was a little bit all over the place, but GE Financial was a big story, and so it began as a sales support leader in Bloomington, Minnesota in 1999. With that, I appreciate all your time this week, and I'll talk to you next. Peace. ba, and it don't seem so lonely. We fill it up with only two.